So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Very good. So this is again the mock paper review for TIMO finals, and this is for secondary one. And again, as you probably all know, the questions are divided into five categories, in math. And then for our first category is in logical thinking. So there are six questions in logical thinking, and this is our first problem. Find the average of the following number sequence. Um, 180, 187, 194, 201, and so on until 320, 327, and 334. So by the way, guys, I want you to send your answers in chat if you're you already have the paper, no? You already have a copy of this paper, so you probably all know the answer already. So let's just skip to the solution instead. So this is our number sequence. So before we what we want to do here is we want to find out the pattern in the sequence, right? And you're all math Olympians, so you probably already can see that the pattern here is just that the next term has to add the number seven, right? So the difference between terms is seven for all of the terms. So this is an arithmetic sequence with a common denominator of seven, or common, what do you call it? Um, so that you add seven to each of the terms. So by the way, you also have to, although the terms in between, no, 201 and 320 are not known or are not explicitly written. So you have to kind of check, see for yourself if this still follows the arithmetic sequence. One way you can know that is if you, for example, you you subtract 100, this term, you subtract this term from this, okay? If you do that, you will have what? 320 minus 180 is 140. And we know that 140 is divisible by 7, right? This is just 20. Therefore, it follows that this is a good arithmetic sequence. So it follows that the terms in between here um, also have this common term of 7. So basically, what you just have to do here now is, if you want to find the average of this sequence, what do you want to do here? What do you have to do? You just have to find the average of the first and last terms, right? So it's just 180 plus 334 all over 2. And then what do we have for the numerator? The sum is 514, right? So divided by 2, that is just equal to 257. So that's our final answer. Okay, so if there are no issues with this, let's move on to number 2 in logical thinking still. Number 2, according to the pattern shown below, what should be the number filled in the blank? So what should be the number filled in the blank, guys? What pattern can you see here? So by the way, you can also express or send your ideas in chat, okay? If you have ideas for the solution in our current problem. So for this one, again, you want to find a pattern in between the terms. So let's see first the differences between terms, okay? For this one, what's the difference? 11, right? This one is 53 minus 20 is 33. And then this one is 152 minus 53. Let me check. That's 99, right? Now you can see a sort of pattern here that the differences are being multiplied by 3, right? So let's now check. If we multiply this by 3, what do we get? 99 times 3, 297. And then 297 times 3 is 891. If you multiply this by 3, we will have 891. So let's see. If we add 99 to 152, what do we get? I know, not 99, no? 297. 152 plus 297, we will get 449. And then what's the difference between 1,340 and 449? We have 891. So that means that our deduction of the pattern is correct. Okay? So there's also another pattern that you can see here. For example, the first term, multiply by 3, and then subtract 7. That's 20. We do this with the other terms. We have 20 times 3 is what? 60 minus 7 is 53. And if you continue that, we will have the 3 times 3 minus 7 is 152. Therefore, the fourth term would be 152 times 3 minus 7, and that is equal to 449. And then just to verify, 449, so this is 449 minus 7 is equal to 1,340. So there are two ways, no, that we can do it. But for me, this is easier to see because we just look at the differences between terms, no? And we found out that the differences between terms are 11 for the first and second terms, and then 33 for the second and third terms, 99 for the third and fourth. So then we can deduce that the differences are being multiplied by 3, right? So that is what we did here. So either way, you can still find out that the answer is just 149. Is someone okay? Liam wants to say something. Okay, Liam, I give you
Can you like
permission.
show me number one?
Number one. Oh,
Yeah.
um, so
I
let's just
joined a
go
bit.
to a quick recap of number one, no, because
Okay.
we've already covered it, and I'm assuming that you were late. So this class is actually being recorded, so you can check it later.
Okay.
But just to a quick summary na lang, a quick summary, okay, for number one. So let's just go for a just very quick recap. So this is number one, no? So as you know, this is our arithmetic sequence. As you can see, the differences between terms is 7.
Oh, yes.
So all of the terms have the difference of 7, no?
Yeah,
And
I
also we
just wanted to
verified
see
this.
the question.
You
I
wanted to
just
see what?
I just wanted to see the question. I think
Okay. So you already know the solution?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. So now let's move on to number 3. So this is number 3. Given that A is to B, or the ratio of A is to B is 3 is to 4, and the ratio of B to C is equal to 3 is to 2, C is to D is equal to 6 is to 7, and A plus B plus C plus D is equal to 690. Find the value of C. So for my students from our previous review last time, the solution that I gave last time was that you can write it in terms of fraction, right? You can do it like this, right? And then you just use algebra to find out the value of C. But there's another way that we can, or another technique that we can do, okay? So let me show this other technique instead. So we write the letters, okay? We write A, B, C, and D. And then for our first ratio, we have A is to B is equal to 3 is to 4. So let's write that here. 3 is to 4. And also B is to C, the ratio is 3 is to 2, right? What we want to do here is we want to find, we have two relationships that involve the variable of B, right? So now what we want to do is we want to find the LCD of these two relations for B. What's the LCD or least common multiple of 4 and 3? It is 12, right? Okay, so it is 12. So now we adjust the other two relationships. How do we do that? We just simply 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3, right? Times 3 is 9. So the relationship of the ratio of A is to B can also be said to be 9 is to 12, right? That's just equivalent to 3 is to 4. We do the same for what do you call this? For the B ratio of B is to C, which is 3 is to 2, right? We divide 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4 times 2 is 8, right? So again, the ratio of B is to C is 3 is to 2 can also be written as 12 is to 8. So that's just equivalent, right? So we do this again for the other our next ratio, which is C is to D is equal to 6 is to 7. So we write here 6 is to 7 for C and D. And then we do the same, no? We find the LCM of 8 and 6. And the LCM is what? For the greatest common factor, we have 24, right? Can you all agree on this? So this is 24. So again, we adjust the ratios of the other variables. 24 divided by 8 is what? 3. And then we multiply that by the other terms in this relationship. So we have What was it? 24 divided by 8 is 3 times 12 is 36. And then 24 divided by 8 is equal to 3 times 9 is 27. Now for D, we use this 6, right? 24 divided by 6 is 4 times 7 is 28. So now we are on equal footing for all of the variables. Okay? So as you can see, you can also verify, no, this is our final ratios, but you can also verify that 27 is to 36 can be simplified to 3 is to 4. And then you can also do the same for the other ratios. So now we have this. So let's add everything, no? 27 plus 36 plus 24 plus 28. If you multiply that by a single multiplier, let's say x, that would be equal to 690, right? Why? Because a plus b plus c plus d is equal to 690, right? And the simplified ratio for a and b, for the all four variables are this, right? So if we just add those, we will have, what will we have? 27 plus 36 plus 24 plus 28. 115x is equal to 690. X is equal to 690 divided by 115 is what? 6, right? So this is a common multiplier for all of the variables. That means that A is just 27 times 6, right? So what is that? 27 times 6, 162. So we don't have to calculate this. What we want to find is just the value of C. So let's just say C is equal to, what was it? 24 times X, which is 6. So 24 times 6 is 144. So this is our answer, okay? So in this final ratio, you have to multiply it all by 6, and you will find that their sum will be 690, right? So what we want to find is just the value of C. So this is the final answer of 144. Are there no issues with this one? If there are none, let's move on to number 4. So this is number 4. Robert goes west for 16 kilometers, then goes south for 30 kilometers. How far is he now from the original position in kilometers? So let's draw. He goes west for 16 kilometers and then goes south for 30. So how far is he from the original position in kilometers? So this is the final position, the original position. So we form a hypotenuse of a triangle, right? So the distance is just, we just use Pythagorean theorem, no? So instead of squaring this here, we just take the square root of the other side. So we will have 30 squared plus 16 squared. No? So this is just Pythagorean theorem. So 30 squared is what? 900. And then 16 squared is 256. So the sum is 1,156. And the square root of 1,156 is just 34. So by the way, you're not allowed to use calculator in the finals, I think, no? So this is kind of, you can't solve this directly without using a calculator. So you just have to try different numbers, no, that are close enough. For example, if you already know that 40 squared is 1,600, so you want to find a number that is lower than that, right? Because the square is 1,156 until we get 34. No? If you get 34 squared, you will have 1,156. So that you have to use trial and error here if you don't already know. Okay? So this is just Pythagorean theorem, and we get the final answer of 34. So if there are no questions with this one, let's move on to the next. So number 5. There are some chickens and goats in a farm. The number of chickens is 5 times of the number of goats. The total number of legs of chickens is 144 more than the total number of legs of goats. How many goats, goat or goats is or are there? So for this one, we use algebra, okay? Let's use some variables to express the number of chickens and goats. For example, we let C be the number of chickens. Chickens. And then we let G be the number of goats. Goats. So how can we use algebra for this? Let's just express the sentences in terms of algebra, okay? So the number of chickens, C, is equal to 5 times the number of goats, so 5G. And then the total number of legs of chickens. Total number of legs of chickens, how can we express that in terms of algebraic terms? We can have 2C, right? Because each chicken has 2 legs, right? And it is said here that the number of legs of chickens is equal to 144 more than the total number of legs of goats. So the total number of legs of goats, how can we express that? We can say 4G, right? Because each goat has 4 legs. So we have now two equations to express our problem. So let's just kind of simplify this. We can have um, 2C minus 4G is equal to 144. And then we know here that C is equal to 5G. So this is just 2 times 5G minus 4G is equal to 144. And then 2 times 5 is 10, minus 4 is 6. So 6G is equal to 144. So what is 144 divided by 6? 24. So what was the question? How many goats? So this is already the final answer, no? 24. Because we are asked how many goats are there. Okay? So if you're not sure in this kind of problems, if you're not sure with the final answer, you can just what do you call this? You can just check, no? For example, for this one, 24 times 5, uh, this is 120. So the number of chickens is 120. And then if you want to verify that, you can verify this equation, no? But this is the final answer already. So let's move on to the next problem if there are no questions. So by the way, no, this problem is in logical thinking, but we used algebra to find the answer. So sometimes some questions in a specific category, we can use a different type of approach or a different branch of mathematics to solve the problem. Okay? So let's move on to number 6, which is the last problem in logical thinking. So this one is kind of interesting. We're kind of playing a game. A, B, C, D, and E are passing ball. A holds the ball at the beginning. After 3 passes, B holds the ball. After 6 passes, E holds the ball. How many different ways is or are there to pass the ball? So the critical question here is how many different ways for it to reach the 6 passes, okay? We're already considering up to the 6 passes, which is that the truth or the fact that we can see here is that E holds the ball at that final pass, okay? So let's draw a table here to make it easier to see. No? We have A, B, C, D, E for our rows. And then for our columns, let's have pass number. So we have pass number 1 up to 6, okay? 4, 5, and 6. So at the very beginning, we know that A holds the ball, no? So how many ways can the other people or the other B, C, D, and E here can have the ball? So in the first pass, you can't go to A again, right? Because A holds the ball at first, and then he or she passes to other person. So there are for each person, they will have one way to have the ball, okay? So A passes to any of the other 4 people. How about for the second pass? For the second pass, if the ball is in B's hands, then he can pass it to the other 4 people, right? He or she. So he can pass it to A, C, D, or E. Okay? And then A cannot pass now because the ball is not in A's hands. So C can also, if the ball is in C's hand after the first pass, he or she can also pass it to the other 4 persons, okay? So if we draw it, we will have something like this. Sorry, no? It's kind of confusing. So this is kind of a tree diagram, but let's just write the final numbers. Okay? 4, 3, 3. So this is from a tree diagram that we can draw. So how do we analyze this? So B can pass, no, let's look at it this way. At the second pass, A can have the ball four ways, right? Because he or she can receive it from the other four people, whoever holds it at the first pass. So it can hold from here, 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 or here, right? So there are four ways. However, for the other four people, they can only have it three ways, right? Because the ball is not in A's hands at that moment. So if it is in B's hands, then we can get it from C, D, or E. Okay, so that's just three. Okay, so we just add the other variables or the other people. Now for C, we will have 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 again. No, we draw a kind of a tree diagram. So that's 3. And then the same way for D, we will have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 0. Okay? So I hope that's clear. But now, we know for a fact that after three passes, B holds the ball. Okay? So how many ways can it reach B at the third pass? Again, we just have to write kind of a tree diagram. So 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So what's the sum? 13, right? So let's delete the branches. Now, we are sure that B holds the ball. Therefore, 0 for the other people. Okay? 0 for the other people. Because we are very sure, it is already stated here that B holds the ball. So, 13 here. Now, for the fourth pass, we again draw the tree diagram. So, here we will have 13 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. Okay? So, that's just 13. And then, for the other people except B, it will also be just 13, right? And then you will have 0 for B because he or she must pass at the fourth pass, right? Must pass to other people. Okay, so this is 0 here. And then again, we can do the same for the fifth pass. We add the other four. 13 times 3 is what? 39. So this will be 39 here, 39 here, 39 here. But now for B, we have to add 14 instances of 13, right? Because he or she can receive it from the other four people. So 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13, or 13 times 4 is 52. And now we know that at the final pass, after 6 passes, he holds the ball. So 0 for the other guys, okay? Or the other people, 0. So we just have to add A, B, C, D, and A, B, C, and D. So 39 times 3 plus 52, right? 169. So you don't have to add this because this is from E. So you add this other 4. Okay? So the final answer is 169. So I hope I explained this clearly. But if you have any questions, you can raise your hand right now so we can address it. Otherwise, we will move on to our next category of questions. So I assume there are no questions. The final answer again is 169. So let's move on to the next one. Algebra. Number 7. Given that A and B are real numbers and satisfy equations A plus B equals 11 and AB equals 30, find the value of A squared plus B squared. So for this one, we want to use the identity that if we square the binomial of A plus B squared, we will have what? Using the FOIL method, we will have A squared plus 2AB, right? Plus B squared. Oh, someone is raising their hand. When? Dang, Min. Okay. What's your question? So you can unmute yourself or send your message in chat. Hello? Nguyen Min? So what's your question? Okay. So that might be an error now. So, okay. Again, if you want to use the FOIL method, right, you will get this identity. That if you square the binomial A plus B, you will get A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. And then we just have to use manipulation to find the value of A squared plus B squared. This should be equal to what? A plus B quantity squared minus 2AB. So what I did, I just transposed this term, no, to the left side, and then I just flipped the left and the right portions of the equation. So I hope you follow. So now we already have the value for a plus b and ab. So this is, we just have to substitute the values, right? So a plus b is 11, and then ab is 30. So 11 squared is 121, and then 2 times 30 is 60. So we will have 61. So are there no questions with this one? So this is pretty straightforward, right? Just you have to use the identity of squaring a binomial a plus b and substituting the values. So I hope there are no questions with this one. Let's move on to number 8. Find the value of real number x satisfying with the quantity of 23x minus 31 minus the quantity of 8x minus 21 minus 4x plus 41. So we just have to use some algebraic manipulation to solve this, right? So let's remove the parentheses. So we distribute the negative signs to this term, right? So this becomes negative 8x or minus 8x. And then the negative 21 or minus 21 becomes plus 21. Also distribute the negative to this last terms. So we will have minus 4x minus 41, right? And then we just have to add the variable, the terms that have similar or same variables. So we have this and this and this. For x, we will have 23 minus 8 minus 4. So that's 11x. How about for the constant terms? We have negative 31 plus 21 minus 41. So minus 51 is equal to 0. And then transpose to the other side. So x is just equal to 51 over 11, which is also equal to 4 and 7 over 11. So either of these answers are correct. So this is pretty straightforward. But in the final competition, you just have to be careful with the signs, okay? Always look at the signs. So be careful. Although this seems quite easy or straightforward for you guys, always make sure that the signs are correct so that you won't have any mistakes. So this is the final answer. I assume there are no questions with this one. If so, let's move on to the next, number 9. So still algebra. Factorize x squared plus 12x minus 189. X squared plus 12x. So for this one, an easy technique or the fastest technique that we can have is if we immediately distribute x to two terms, right? So we already know that it will have this form. And then we just have to look at 189 and we factor that out. Let's just see the prime factors of 189. 189. So we will have 3 squared. No, not 3 squared. It's 3 cubed times 7. Let me just check. 3 cubed times 7. Yes, that's 189. So the differences between the two factors should be 12 or negative 12. No, positive 12. So let's try 3 squared and 7 times 3. Sorry. 3 squared and 3 times 7. So that's 9 and 21, right? So that will, clearly, that gives us 12, no? So as you can see, if we use the FOIL method, we will have here 21 times 9 is 189, right? So the two terms here must have different signs, right? Because the product is negative 189. So this must differ in signs. And the middle term has a positive sign. Therefore, the bigger number here must have the positive sign, okay? So this is plus 21 and minus 9. So if we use FOIL method, we will have first terms, x squared, outside terms, negative 9x, and then inside terms, minus positive 21x, and then negative 189. So that comes out to this original. So our answer would then be x plus 21 times x minus 9, or the other way around. So we can have x minus 9 times x plus 21, right? So that's our final answer. So no questions? So very good, guys, no? You can easily understand the problems. I hope you do well in the competition. So let's move on to number 10. Here, how many integers is or are there for x if 12 is less than 4x plus 19 is less than 55? So for this one way you can do this is if you split the inequalities, you can do it this way, right? You can split into two inequalities if you're not able to follow a single inequality. But for my solution, let's just make it into one inequality, okay? I think you can still follow. So if we do the left inequality, we will have what? If we transpose this to the left side, we will have 12 minus 19, which is, let's just write 12 minus 19. So this becomes 4x. And we do the same for the right inequality. We also transpose it here, 55 minus 19. Okay? If we simplify, we will have negative 7 less than 4x less than 55 minus 19 is 36. Divide all sides by 4, we will have negative 7/4 here, x, and then the right portion will become 9. So this is our final inequality, or our simplified inequality. So we can say that negative 7/4 is what? 7 divided by 4. Negative 1.75. So this is equivalent to negative 1.75. Therefore, our integers would then be, x would then be from negative 1, 0, 1, up to 8, right? Because this inequality is exclusive. So 9 is not included. So how many integers is the question? Therefore, the outer limits of negative 1.75, this already is already not considered, right? Because this is an integer. So we go to the next integer. So that is negative 1. And then for this one, the upper limit is 9. That is not included in the inequality or in the solution. So the final value would then be 8, right? So how many integers would that then be? If we count, we will have 8 minus negative 1 plus 1, which is 10, right? So there are 10 integers in this set of solutions, right? So the final answer is 10. No questions? Okay, let's move on to number 11. So by the way, guys, you can express your issues in chat, okay? If I'm going too fast, just tell me, okay, in chat. So number 11, if a and b are positive integers and 9a plus 18b is equal to 2025, find the maximum value of a plus b. So let's see. We write 9a plus 18b is equal to 2025. And both of a and b are integers, right? Or positive integers. So how about we divide this by 9? So we can divide everything by 9, right? So divide everything by 9. We are left with a plus 2b is equal to 225. 225. So what would be the case if we want to find the maximum value?
Um,
If we want to find the maximum value, we should make b bigger, right? Because it is being multiplied by 2, right? And we should minimize a. So maximize b and minimize a, right? So what would be the minimum value for a? Now note, both of them are positive integers, right? So if we want to minimize a, let's say that a is equal to 1, okay? And then what would be the value for b such that
112.
this equation still holds true?
112.
Someone is saying something?
112.
Okay, very good. So b would then be 112 for that case, right? So this is the maximum value that we can have. So that would be, if we
Wait.
write this here, we will have 1 plus 2 times 112. So that is equal to 225. So this is still correct, right? And this is the maximum value for,
Hi,
this is the
teacher.
maximum that we can have
No,
for A
teacher.
plus B.
Teacher.
No.
Oh, someone is saying something?
Yeah. So you can
So,
put.
by the way, if, no,
I
wait,
think
wait a
it
bit.
should be the largest and
Guys,
to
guys, wait a bit, guys,
be
please.
smallest.
Please, wait a bit. Guys, please wait a bit. Before you say something, please ask for permission, okay? Please raise your hand first before you say something, before you unmute, okay? Okay, go on. Please raise your hand if you want to say something. Okay, so let's first have Liam. Liam, you can unmute.
So
So
I
what do you want to
think I
say?
think that the largest value would be when you put the two number as like as close as possible, because if you try a equal to 3, if you try a equal to
Alright.
3, if you put a as 3, you can put
Yes.
the value for b will be 111. So
Yes.
111 is 111 and 3 plus is 114, which is bigger than 1 plus 112, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good, no, for pointing that out. Oh, actually, what do you call here? Find the maximum value of A plus B, 224. Oh, so you have a copy of this question, right? Of this Oh wait. Okay, let's have Lynn. What do you want to say, Lynn?
Shouldn't A be 223 and B be 1? Because if we want the maximum value of the
Yes.
sum of A plus B, A should be 223 and B should be 1.
Right. That's the correct answer, okay? So sorry for that, no? This is incorrect solution. Oh, by the way, thank you. Thank you, Linda, for pointing that out. So this is incorrect. Sorry, sorry. So I did it the other way. That should be the minimum, not the maximum, right? So it should be maximum. So what you want to have instead is the opposite of what I just said, right? So what you want to have is you want to minimize B and you want to maximize A, right? So the minimum that we can have for B is 1. So that's the opposite, no? And then what would be our A? Our A would just be 2 to 3, right? So 2 to 3 plus 2 times 1 is 2 to 5. So that is correct. So what's the maximum value of A plus B? It is simply 2 to 3 plus 1, which is 2 to 4. So the correct answer is 224. So thank you for pointing out, no? I made an error there. I did the opposite. I found the minimum instead of the maximum. So this is the correct way to do it, okay? So you want to minimize the one that is being multiplied by, that will become a bigger number. So because there's a B is being multiplied by 2, so you want to minimize that, right? So let's move on to number 12, which is, I think, yes, this is the last question for the algebra portion. So find the value of y if it follows this system of linear equations, x plus 2y equals 3, and 4x plus 5y equals 6. So what we want to find the value of y. So in this way, if we have this system of equations, the best way would be what? We should eliminate x, right? Because we want to find y. So one way to eliminate x is if we have multiplied this by 4, right? The first equation, we will have 4. So this becomes what? 4x plus 8y. No, there's also a 4 here. So we have 12. And then we subtract the second equation. Okay, minus this equation. So this becomes negative 4x, negative 5y. And this also becomes negative. So we can just cancel out the 4x. So what we have here, this is 3y. And then this is 12 minus 6 is 6. Right? So y is just 6 over 3, which is just 2. Right? So that would be the fastest way that we can find the solution of the problem, right? So what we did is we eliminated the variable x because we want to find y. So I hope this is pretty simple to follow because this is straightforward, right? And this is our last problem for algebra, right? So let's move on to the next. Number theory. So this is the first problem in number theory, number 13. Find the value of the expression 5 plus 14 all over 5 plus 14 all over 5 plus 14 and so on. So this is an infinite expression right here. So what do we want? How can we simplify this? So we let x be equal to the whole expression. So we have 14 all over 5 plus 14 and so on. No? So we can simplify this how? We can express it this way, right? 5 plus 14 over x, right? Because this whole expression is infinite and this also just becomes x, right? This part is just equal to the overall expression. So we can just express it this way. So now we have to multiply x to both sides of the equation to simplify it, right? So this becomes x squared. This is 5x and this is 14. So we transpose the terms. So we have x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. So we factorize. This would be 7 and 2, right? 7 and 2. And should have differing signs. And the negative should be on the larger number, right? So that we will have the middle term of negative 5x. Therefore, our x would be either 7 or negative 2. But note that we want to find the value which is the positive real number value. Therefore, the answer is 7. Okay? So this is an invalid solution because the expression itself should be a positive real number. So Nguyen Huang Bak, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, wants to say something.
Oh, well, why 5 become 5x? I'm not understand that clearly.
Why what?
Why 5 become 5x? I, I don't
Why five?
understand.
Okay. This portion right here.
Yeah.
This portion right here.
Yes.
Right. So this is the expression that we found out, right? When we simplified this. Okay. We
Okay.
multiplied x to both sides of the equation. We multiplied x here. We multiply x here. So sorry if I immediately jump a step, right? So we multiply x to both sides of the equation. That is why this becomes x squared, and then this term becomes 5x. And then this
All
one
right.
becomes 14. Okay?
Okay.
Is that clear? Very good.
Yeah, clear.
So the other steps, no questions for the other solution or other steps? So I assume there are none. No other questions, guys? If there are none, let's move on to number 14. This one, a three-digit number has a remainder 4 when divided by 5, 6, or 9. Find the smallest possible value of this three-digit number. So how do we approach this problem? So we have a three-digit number that if we divide by 4, if we divide by 5, 6, or 9, the remainder is 4 for all of the cases. So what we want to do here is we want to find the least common multiple of the divisors. Or let's just say LCD. So that is just the same, right? 5, 6, and 9. What's the LCD of these three numbers? This is, I think, 5 times 3 times 2 times 3, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So there's a 3 here, a 3. So that's 9. This is 6. So this is 90. So this is the LCD, right? 4, 5, 6, and 9. 90. So that means that 90, when divided by either 5, 6, or 9, will have no remainder, right? Because 90 is divisible by all three divisors. Now, if we want to do it, if we want to simplify at the next number, we just have to add 4, right? 90 plus 4 is equal to 94. If you divide this by either 5, 6, or 9, Let me confirm. 24 divided by 6. Yes. So 94 will have a remainder of 4 when divided by 5, 6, or 9, right? So that is 4 away from our LCD. But notice, you just take note that what we want to find is a 3-digit number, right? 3-digit number. And by the way, it should be as the smallest possible value. Smallest 3-digit number. So instead of having 90, let's move on to its next multiple. The next multiple would be 90 times 2, right? The next multiple of 90. So that is 180. So let's add 4 to 180 instead. So we will have 184. So this is actually the correct answer. This is the smallest one that we can have. Okay? So what we did is we find the smallest multiple of 90, which is the LCD, which is 180, right? Because this is the smallest one that we can have. And we know that 180 is also divisible by 5, 6, or 9. So we add 4 so that it will have a remainder of 4 when divided by 5, 6, or 9. You can just verify this. If you divide this by 5, 6, or 9, you will find out that it will have a remainder of 4, right? So I hope this is clear. Again, let's be careful with what is being asked of us. We want to find a 3-digit number, not the 2-digit one. So this is wrong. So the answer it would be 184. And by the way, we want to find the smallest one. So if we want to find the biggest one, you have to look at other multiples of 90. But let's not look into that, no? That's for another problem. Let's move on to number 15. Find the sum of all positive factors of 441. So this is kind of interesting. Let's find the prime factorization of 441. So this is equal to, you can divide that by 3 twice, and then you can divide it by 7 twice. So this is the prime factorization of 441. Let me verify. 3 squared times 7 squared. Yes, 441. So our formula here would be sum of all positive factors. Oh, okay. Nguyen Dang Min wants to say something.
Can I try it? Can I do?
Okay. Sorry, no, sorry I didn't mention earlier for this lecture, instead of having some volunteer do the solution, let's just have me instead, okay? In the interest of time, because if I entertain volunteers, we might run out of time, okay? So
Okay,
to follow our schedule, so sorry no if I'm not able to give you a chance, but if you find errors in my solution, you can point it out, okay? That would be the best way instead. So I hope that clears it up. Is that understandable for you, Nguyen?
Yes, thank you, teacher.
Okay. So thank you for understanding. So our technique here would actually be this. We want to have 1 plus 3. This is our solution. But let me I will explain it to you how we come up to this solution. So this is the solution. You have to find you add um the what? Factors of 3. So we start from 3 to the power of 0, which is just 1, up to 3 squared, right? And then multiply that by the factors of powers of 7. Sum of powers of 7, which is 7 to the 0, which is 1, up to 7 squared. So there is actually one way that we can analyze why we reach this conclusion or this solution. Okay, let me illustrate to you guys. What are the factors of 441? Let's list them down. We have 1, 3, 3 squared, right? So we can also have 7. We have 3 times 7, right? So I'm just listing everything, no? Every combination or every factor of 441. Oh, by the way, what was our formula for the number of factors? We have to add the exponents plus 1, right? 2 plus 1, and then 2 plus 1. So that's 3 times 3, 9. So we already know that there are 9 factors. So we don't want to miss anything. And then we also have 7 squared. And then 3 times 7 squared. And finally, we have 3 squared times 7 squared, which is just equal to 441. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are the 9 factors of 441, right? If we list all the combinations. Now, let's group them up. We can group this one. 1 plus 3 plus 3 squared. And then group the terms that have 7. 7. So this is 1. And then we have this here. We have 3, right? And then this one as well. We have 3 squared. So how about for the last 3 terms? We can factor out the 3. Ano? Is it the 3? No, the 7 squared pala. It is the 7 squared. We can factor out. So this one, this just becomes 1. And then this one becomes 3. And the final one is just 3 squared, right? So now we have a common term for each of these terms. So we can, again, factor that out to have 1 plus 3 plus 3 squared. Oh, by the way, Nguyen is still raising his or her hand. Do you still have a question? Nguyen? Nguyen Dang Min?
No, so sorry.
Okay. Okay. So again, I factored out these terms, no? So what will remain here? We will have 1 plus 7 plus 7 squared, right? So that is how we came up with this solution right here. So let's just calculate this. 1 plus 3 squared, which is 9. 4 plus 9 is 13. And then this one is 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 7 squared, which is 49, is 57. So 13 plus 50 times 57 is 741. No? So this solution right here, I just illustrated it to you guys, no? How we reach this solution step. So the shortcut is just this one. You don't have to memorize this. You just have to, you don't have to know this, no? You just have to memorize this. Okay? But if you forgot, no? You can do this, no? This is another way. This is the complete solution. So let's have one number before a break. Because we're already halfway. Number 16. Number theory. Find the unit digit of 3 plus 4 squared plus 13 cubed plus 14 to the 4th power plus so on until plus 44 to the power of 10 plus 53 to the power of 11. So let's group, no? Let's group the terms. 3 plus 13 cubed. So we have a pattern, by the way, because let's look at the terms that end in 3. This one, and this one. We can easily see that the pattern is that the next one will be 23, no? So the terms in between here, this would be 23 to the power of what? So as we know, as we can see, the pattern is also that the exponents of the units digit of 3 are odd numbers, right? So this would become 20 to the power of 5, 33 to the 7, 43 to the power of 9, and then 53 to the power of 11. Then we add also the terms ending in 4. This one, and this one. And the terms in between. So we have 4 squared, 14 to the 4th power, and the exponents are even numbers. So we will have here 24 to the power of 6, 34 to the 8th power, 44 to the power of 10. So these are all our terms. Now notice if we want to find the unit digit, we can just simplify, all the numbers. So we can just simplify this to 3 plus 3 cubed. We don't have to look at the other digits other than the unit digit. So this is just an equivalent one. So this is just 3 to the 5, 3 to the 7, 3 to the 9, 3 to the 11. And then for the 4s, we have 4 squared, 4 to the 4th, 4 to the 6th, 4 to the 8th, and finally 4 to the 10th power. So what is our pattern for powers of 3? For powers of 3, we have 3 to the power of 1 is just 3. And then 3 squared is what? 9. 3 cubed is 27, which has a unit digit of 7. And then 1, right? So this is our repeating pattern for exponents, no? It repeats every 4 powers. How about for 4? Let's review. 4 is what? 4 and 6, I think. Let's just... All right. So the pattern for 4 is just 4 and 6, right? So that means that for a number or a power of 4 that is an odd number or odd exponent, we will have the units digit of 4. And if it is even, we will have 6, right? So this becomes, the first term becomes what? 3, right? 3 cubed is what? 7. 3 to the power of 5 is 3, right? Because we exhaust the 4 in the cycle or in the pattern, and then we go back to 3. To the 5 is 3. And then 7 is what? Also, this is 7, okay? One way of looking also at this is if we divide the exponent by 4, and then get the remainder. So if we divide 7 by 4, we will have a remainder of 3. No, 7 divided by 4, we will have a remainder of 3. So that means that it follows the unit digit of 3 cubed. So that is 7, right? So how about 3 to the power of 9? That is 3, right? And then for 11, that's just 7. So it's alternating between 3 and 7. How about for the units digit for 4? We have, all of them have even numbers as exponents, right? That means that each one of them will have a units digit of just 6, right? So we'll just have 6 and 6. So there are 5 instances of the number 6. So to simplify this, we count how many 3s? We will have 3 instances of 3. How many 7? Let me confirm. So also 3. No? How many 6? 5. So we will have 9 plus 21 plus 30. So that is equal to 60. And then we want to find the unit digit. What's the unit digit of 60? It is just 0. So the final answer is just equal to 0. So are there no questions with this one? Anyone?
No.
No questions? So let's take, we're already past halfway. So let's take a short break. Let's say 5 minutes, okay? So 5-minute break starts right now.
Beach.
It's already 2, 4, 2, 5. So let's have a bit of time to give everyone some time to get back to their seats. So again, encouraging everyone to turn on your cameras if you're able to. So I hope everyone is back because we will now continue our lecture. So our last number was 16, right? So let's move on to number 17. We are still in number theory. Given that x is a positive number, or x is greater than 0, and x plus 1 over x is equal to 12, find the value of x squared plus 1 over x squared. So how do we get the value of this? So one way we can do that is by squaring this equation, both sides of this equation. So if we square both sides of the equation, we will have this one. This is 12 squared. So we will have x squared plus, what will be a middle term? If we use the FOIL method, we will have the outside term, it would be x times 1 over x, right? So I'm just showing this clearly, so everyone can follow. And then the inner terms would be what? 1 over x and x, right? And the final one would be 1 over x squared. This is 144. So this is just equal to 1, This can be simplified to 1. Also this one. So that would be x squared plus 2 plus 1 over x squared is equal to 144. So this one is just x squared plus 1 over x squared. We transpose the number 2. So we will have 142. So just a bit of manipulation of the equation to get the final answer of 142. So there are no questions. Are there no questions with this one? No? We just square both sides of the equation of the given one to find this expression right here. So I assume there are no questions, no? If there are none, let's move on to number 18, which is our last problem in number theory. So if x is congruent, this is congruent, no? Congruent sign. 8 mod 11, find the maximum value of this two-digit number x. How do we approach this problem? You guys have ideas? So we can express x as 11 k plus 8, where k is an integer. K is some integer. Some integer. So what does that mean? So if we add 8 to a multiple of 11, we will have x, right? Because x has a remainder of 8 when divided by 11. So we can express it this way instead. And then, so we just have to test k, no? We just have to test k equal to 1, 2, and so on. We just have to test an integer such that we will have a two-digit number x that is the maximum value. What are your ideas? Nguyen Wang Bak wants to say something.
I'm not understand what is mod 11.
Okay, you're still not familiar with this one. So this is modular, what do you call this? Modular congruence. What this means is that x is congruent to 8 mod 11. What this means is that x is a number such that when it is divided by 11, the remainder is 8, okay? X divided by 11 is some number, quotient, which has a remainder of 8. Okay, that is what it means by that. That is why we can also express it this way.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay?
Okay.
Very good. So we can express it this way, right?
Okay, 1, 2.
So
It's
some integer k. Muhammad, you're saying something?
nothing.
Muhammad Shabazz?
Sorry, nothing.
Okay. So what are your ideas for this one? We want to maximize the two-digit number x. I think what we can say k is equal to 8, for example. So this is just an example, but we will get the correct answer already. Because this is 88 plus 8, which is 96. So if we go over that, if we try k equals 9, we will have 99 plus 8. And that will become a 3-digit number, right? So this is the maximum value for the 2-digit number x. So you just use a bit of logic instead of pure trial and error, right? So you can test this. If you divide 96 by 11, you will have what? 8 remainder, 8, right? So I hope that's clear. So let's move on to the next category. Number 19, which is in geometry. So refer to the figure below. The triangle ABC is a right-angled triangle. Points D, E, and G are the midpoints of AB, AC, and DE respectively. Given AB is equal to 8 and BC is equal to 12, find the length of BG. But first, Dang Wang Min wants to say something.
Teacher, what
Okay.
is the answers for the...
Oh, I can't hear you clearly. Can you increase your volume?
What is the answer for the 17
17?
questions and 18 questions?
17 and 18? Did you say 17 and 18, Dang Wang Min?
Yes.
I can't hear you clearly. Can you instead write it in chat?
Yes, it's 17 and 18.
17 and 18. Okay. So this was our answer for 18, okay? 96 is the answer.
Yes.
So you can screenshot this screen to get the solution, okay? I give you some time. And for number 17, the answer was, so this takes a bit of time. But the answer for this one is 142. So, okay, I will show you the solution. Oh, this was the solution. Okay? You can take a screenshot if you want.
Yes, thank you for the answers.
So is that okay? Okay. So let's go back to number 19. So this is our problem. What's our technique for this one, guys? So this is a midpoint of AB. This is already also another midpoint, right? And AB, AC, and then G is also the midpoint of DE, right? And then it also creates another line that passes through G. So we have AB is equal to 8. That means that this one is 4 and 4, right? Because this is a midpoint. And BC is 12. So this one is 12. And what we want to find is BG. This one. Sorry. But that BG, right? So what can we see here? Can you guys see the similar triangles? This one and the big triangle, right? So if we want to use similar triangle theorem, we will have 8 over 12, right? For the big triangle. So this side over this side is 12. How about for the smaller triangle? 4 and DE, right? So we still don't know the length of DE. So what would be the length of DE? If we do a bit of manipulation or cross multiply, we will have 12 times 4 over 8. Right? So this is just 1/2. So this is 6. Right? So DE is equal to 6. And so we know that G is also a midpoint. That means that this is 3 and this is 3. Right? Does that make sense for you guys? So we use similar triangles. Now, what we want to find is the length of BG, this one. So we know that this one is just right angled, right? This is also right angled. So it is just BG. We can just use the Pythagorean theorem, right? That is equal to DB squared and DG squared. So, Vu Ngok, am I saying your name correctly? Wants to say something? Hello? Vu Ngok Ridong. Do you want to say something? Oh, you're not saying something, so I'm just going to continue what I'm doing, okay? Okay. So this is what? You already know 4, 3, no? Pythagorean triple. That is just equal to 5. But just to show, no? This is 16, and this is 9. So that is square root of 25. So that is just 5. Okay, Nguyen Dang Mi wants to say something?
Teacher, how do you know
Yes.
D is triangle?
DE?
How do you know D is right angle?
How do I know that ADE, the smaller one? This one?
How do you know
ADE?
how do you know GDB is right?
This one.
Yes.
GDB.
Yes, is right
Okay.
triangle.
You want to know if that is a right, how do I know that that is a right angle triangle?
Yes, yes.
No? Yes? Okay. So for this one, the way we know that is that this is just what? This is a midpoint, right? And this is another midpoint. Okay? And this, we can show that this is just parallel to this one, right? Because they are both in the midpoints. So that means that this is parallel to this one. Therefore, this is the line DG is just perpendicular to DB, right? So they are perpendicular to each other. So they form a right angle triangle. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, thank you, teacher.
Okay, very good, no? So thanks for us asking questions, guys. No, that is very good that you participate in the discussion. That you're asking questions. So we already brought that up. So if there are no questions, there are no issues with this problem. Let's move on to number 20. Number 20. We're still in geometry. A solid cuboid is formed by combining 300 cubes with side length 1. Find the smallest possible total surface area of the cuboid. So what does it mean by cuboid? That is just one way of saying rectangular prism, right? So if we have this 3D object, for example, these are the hidden sides. So this is the length, width, and this is the height. So this is just an illustration, no? That is a solid cuboid or rectangular prism. So we want to combine the 300 cubes with side length 1. What is the smallest possible? So if we want to find smallest possible total surface area, what would be our dimensions? Okay, Ni Nguyen Pao wants to say something.
Can you please show again number 19? I can't. For me to screenshot, please.
You want to screenshot? Okay, sorry, no, I was going too fast.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, next time, no, if you want to, please be fast enough so that I won't go back to the previous problem, no. Please make it fast if you want to address an issue. Okay? I will give you a bit of time to screenshot. So is that enough?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So for next time, okay, please be fast with your concerns. Raise it up or as quick as you can so that we won't waste time. Okay? So go back to number 20. So let's draw again. Just to show what are rectangular prism or solid cuboid. So sorry for the drawing, no? So this is the length, the width, and the height. So if we want to minimize the total surface area, what would be the best idea that we can have? We want to make the dimensions as close to each other as possible, okay? We want to have the length, width, and height as close to each other as possible. So how do we do that? Let's look at the 300, which is our volume. No, this is volume because the side length is 1. So that the volume of the overall cuboid would be 300, right? And then find the prime factorization. So this is the prime factorization of 300. Let's confirm. 2 squared times 3 times 5 squared. Yes, that's 300. So what would be the closest dimensions that we can have. Let's try 5, 6, and 10. So those are the closest dimensions, no? 3 factors that we can have for 300 that would make the dimensions length, width, and height close to each other as possible. So this is equal to 300. So let's have this as our dimensions. What's our formula for surface area? It is twice the length and width, right? No, that's not plus, that's multiply. And then twice width and height, and twice the length and height. So this side, no? This side is the length times width. This side is the width times height. And the opposite side is also a width times height. That is why we multiply by 2, no? Does that make sense for you guys? So this would be 2 times length times width. Let's just say this is the length, the width, and the height. Although that does not make sense for the illustration, but don't take that as a don't take this illustration as our representation of our problem, okay? Or our dimensions here. So this is 5 times 6. So I just factored out the 2, okay? So that we can have 6 times 10. And then we also have what? 5 times 10. So this is 2 times 30 plus 60 plus 50. Right? So this is 2 times a quantity of 90 plus 50 is 140. Therefore, our answer is 280. So this is our smallest possible total surface area. So if you want to confirm, you can also try other 3 factors of 300, no? That are not close to each other than 5, 6, and 10. And you will find out that the total, the surface area for those combination of dimensions would be greater than 280. So you can confirm on that on your own. So let's move on to the next number 21. Still in geometry. For real numbers x and y, point M with the coordinates x5 is the midpoint of point A, 4y, and point B, 14, 3 in our rectangular coordinate system. Find the value of xy. So the midpoint is between A and B, right? So the point M is between halfway through the line AB. So our formula for midpoint would be what? Midpoint should have the coordinates what? X1 plus X2, the average of the X coordinates, and Y1 plus Y2 over 2, the Y coordinates. So X1 is what? This is X1 and Y1 for A, and B is X2, Y2. Okay? So M should be 4 plus 14 over 2. And then Y would be what? Y plus 3 over 2. So this is equal to X5. So this means that X is equal to 4 plus 14 or 18 over 2 is 9. And then Y plus 3 over 2 is equal to 5, right? This means that Y plus 3 is equal to 10, or Y is equal to 10 minus 3 is equal to 7, right? Let me confirm for a bit. So our X is 9 and our Y is 7. So find the value of XY. And for XY is just 9 times 7, which is 63, right? So take a bit of time to take a screenshot for the solution if you want to, or write it down. Okay, so what we did is we just used the formula or the logical solution for finding out the midpoint of between two numbers, no, in our rectangular coordinate system. So we found out that X and Y is 9 and 7. So if there are no questions, if there are questions, raise your concerns right now. And if there are none, let's move on to number 22. Okay, I assume there are none. Number 22. Given that an interior angle of an n-sided regular polygon is 17 times of its exterior angle, find the value of n. So what's the formula for an interior angle of an n-sided regular polygon? This is the formula, okay? For the interior angle. So I assume many, if not all of you guys already know this, no? This is for the interior angle. And then, it is said here that is 7 times the exterior angle. For any n-sided polygon or regular polygon, it is always 360 over n, right? So this is the formula for exterior angle for any n-sided regular polygon. So we express our problem in terms of algebra, no? So 17 times the exterior angle. So this is our solution or our equation. So we can cancel out the n from both sides, right? If we multiply n both sides, so we are left with 180 n minus 2 equals 17 times 360. If we divide by 180 both sides, we will have 17 times 360 over 180. And n minus 2 is equal to, this is just 2, right? 360 divided by 180. So n is just equal to 17 times 2 is 34 plus 2 is equal to 36. So the answer in the paper, in the mock paper was 18. So that was the incorrect answer, no? So this is a corrected answer. It should be 36. So take a screenshot of this one before we move on to the next problem. Or are there questions for this one? Again, the answer in the written in the mock paper was 18, but it is supposed to be 36, as what we can see from our solution here, right? So let's move on to number 23. We're already near the end of geometry category. There are 20 points in a circle. How many different hexagons can we draw with those points as its vertices? So what is our technique for this one? How many different hexagons can we draw? For example, we have 20 points here. We can draw, for example, this. Is that a hexagon? No.
You could use C, 20C6.
Ah?
20C6.
Anyone saying something? Yes, but I'm just illustrating it first, okay? This is one way, no, that we can have it. But actually, the best way to do it is just to find 20 combination 6. Right? Because out of 20 points, we choose 6 points as our vertices for hexagons. Does that make sense to use this formula? No? Because we have 20 points and we choose 6 out of those. And we want to find how many ways. So how many different hexagons. So this is just our formula. The top part would be 20 times 19 times 18 times 17 times 16 times 15 times 14 factorial. Let's just end at 14 factorial because we will have in the denominator, we will have 20 minus 6, which is 14 factorial, right? So we can cancel out the 14 factorial. Now, how do we simplify this? Let's see what we can cancel out. This 5 times 4, we can cancel out the 20. And 6 times 3, we can cancel out the 18, right? And then we can cancel out 16 over 2, this one. This becomes 8. So we are left with 19 times 17 times 8 times 15. So can you guys calculate that one? So I'm just going to write now.
38760. 38760.
Yes. Correct answer is 38,760. Okay? Take a bit of a screenshot. Take a screenshot if you want to. Otherwise, if there are no questions, let's move on to the final problem in geometry. Okay? Number 24. The exterior angles of an irregular octagon measure 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, 31, and 30 degrees. What is the size of the eighth exterior angle? How many given sides do we have, or given angles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we just want to find the last one. So for any polygon, no? For any polygon, whether it be regular or irregular, the exterior angle or the sum of the exterior angles
360. 360.
sum is
360.
always equal to 360. Oh, thank you, Liam, no, for voicing it out. But for the next problems, may I ask you to please only talk when I'm asking you to, okay? So whether it be an regular or irregular polygon, it is always equal to 360. Therefore, what we want to do here is we just have to subtract these numbers or these angles from 360, okay? So we just have to subtract all of the 7 exterior angles from 360 to find the 8 exterior angle. So if we calculate this, we will have 171 degrees, right? So in the final, in the competition, you don't have to write degrees. You can just write 171. But that automatically means 171 degrees, right? So this is pretty straightforward, no? Very straightforward. So let's move on to the final category, if there are no issues, which is combinatorics. So the first problem in combinatorics, number 25. Peter draws 3 balls randomly from a bag with 3 black balls and 4 yellow balls without replacement. Find the probability that exactly 2 yellow balls are drawn. So how do we form our formula for this one? As you may recall, the formula for probability is number of favorable outcomes, right? Favorable outcomes over number of total outcomes. So what is our number of total outcomes? We choose 2 yellow balls from how many balls? 3 plus 4 is 7, right? Exactly 2 yellow balls are drawn. No, we actually draw 3 balls, no? Not 2. So our total outcomes, number of total outcomes is 7 combination 3 or 7 choose 3. Because out of the 3 plus 4 balls that we have, we choose 3 balls, no? Randomly. So 7 choose 3. And then what would be our numerator? The number of favorable outcomes. We will have 3 choose 1 times 4 choose 2. What does that mean? Because out of 4 yellow balls, we will get exactly 2 yellow balls, right? And then, of course, the other ball or the third ball would be from a black ball, right? So 3 choose 1. So this would be our formula, okay? So we just have to evaluate this. 3 to choose 1 is immediately just equal to 3, right? You don't have to calculate that. And then for the top portion, we will have 4, 3 times 2 factorial over 2 factorial times 2. This cancels out. This cancels out to 2. And then 7 choose 3. We will have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 factorial, right? We will have 4 factorial here that we can cancel out and a 3. 3 factorial. So that's 3 times 2. So we can cancel this out, right? So we are left with 3 times 2 times 3 all over what remains here, 7 and 5, right? This is equal to 18 over 35. So that's our final answer. So are all of you already comfortable with calculating combination problems? I hope so, no? So if you're not comfortable with combination, you just review the formula for combination and operations involving factorials. Okay? So this is our final answer of 18 over 35. Again, so Fong wants to say something. Fong 1. Okay.
I did not understand what is
Combination?
C. No, letter C stand for.
Hmm? Can you repeat your question?
The letter C in the fraction stand for.
Letter C?
Yes.
What does it mean? It means combination. Okay?
Oh,
In combinatorics. Is that your question?
yes.
Okay. So this is just combination, no?
Oh, thank you.
So this is our, do you still have another question? Or none?
None.
Okay. Can we move on to the next number? Okay. Let's move on to the next. Number 26, right? How many different ways is or are there to place 3 different black shirts and 3 different blue shirts in a row from left to right, such that shirts of the same color are not adjacent to each other? So how do we solve this problem, guys? Number 26. Okay. So my technique for this one is just how many different ways? Okay, okay. 3. So there are a total of 6, no? 6, 4, 5. What I want to, this is another or shortcut method, no, for dealing with problems such as this. So I want to arrange these 6 different shirts. 3 of them are black and 3 of them are blue, right? So these are the 6 in the blank. These are the 6. For the first one, we can have a black, no? We can have a black. And we can't have a block that is next to it, right? Because shirts of the same color should not be beside each other or adjacent to each other. So this should be blue. And this should be black. This should be blue. So this should alternate, no? So we can also start with blue, right? We can start with um, blue and then black and then blue and so on, right? So how many ways can we have for the first what do you call this one? If we start with black, blue, alternating. Alternating. So for black, we can have 3 shirts, no? 3 options for the shirts. And then for the blue, we can have again 3 options for the shirts. And then for the third blank or the third shirt, if we have to have black again, right? Because it should alternate. And we only have 2 options because we already used the first shirt here in the first one. And then for blue, we also have 2, right? Because we already used the first shirt. And then finally, for the last 2 blanks are the 2 black and blue shirts, right? So if you multiply all of them, we will have 3 times 3, 9 times 4 is 36. But we also have another case wherein we start with blue. Blue, then black alternating. Alternating. But it should be the same, right? If we start with blue, we will have 3 shirts that we can choose from. And then we go with black, we have 3 shirts that we can choose from. And then again, blue, now that we used already a blue shirt, we already have 2 options, right? And then for black, again, we have 2. And for the final 2 shirts are the last shirts for each color. So it's also 36. So it's just 2 times 36, which is 72. We can also say it as 3 permutation 2, 3 permutation 3, and then 3 permutation 3. Because recall that in permutation, this is we arrange something, no? We arrange some objects, whereas in combination, we already want to find how many combinations, and we are not concerned with the arrangement. But in permutation, we are concerned with the arrangement. So we use permutation when we are dealing with arranging objects. So 3 permutation 3 because we want to arrange the 3 blue shirts and the 3 black shirts. And we do it 2 times because we can go with starting with black on the first shirt or with starting with blue. Okay? Does that make sense for you guys? This is still equal to 72. So you can confirm that for yourselves. Okay? So you can do either of the solutions that I gave to you here. But for me, personally, that was a logical way of looking at it when we arrange it by this, the first solution that I gave. So are there no questions with this one? I assume there are none. So let's move on to number 27. So number 27, 40 cards are marked from 1 to 40, and 2 of these cards are drawn at random without replacement. Find the probability that the numbers of the cards drawn are multiples of both 3 and 5. So first of all, we want to find how many numbers from 1 to 40, no? How many cards from 1 to 40 that are multiples of both 3 and 5. How do we get that? So first, let's look at the cards that are multiples of 3 and 5. Multiples of 3 and 5. So one way we can calculate that is if we look at the floor function. Are you guys familiar with the floor function? What this means is we divide 40 divided by 3 and then round it down to the nearest integer, okay? So I will explain it one by one later. So let me just write this first. So to count how many multiples there are from 1 to 40, we get 40 divided by 3 and then get the floor function, no? So 40 divided by 3 is 13.333, but if we round it down to the nearest integer, we will have 13, okay? So that is what it means by the floor function. We round it down to the nearest integer. And then next, 40 over 5, this is just 8, right? So why do we count it this way? Multiples, this is incorrect pala. Both multiples are both multiples of 3 and 5. So this is incorrect ang problem. The problem should be, sorry. So this was the given solution, no? So the problem was supposed to be that multiples of, not both, either 3 or 5. So sorry for that, but we will explore the original problem later. Let's just look at the solution first. So if we want to look at the numbers that are divisible or multiples of either 3 or 5, then we look at the multiples of 3 first, right? And then add the multiples of 5. So there are 8 multiples of 5 from 1 to 40. And then we have to subtract the numbers that are divisible by both 3 and 5. Why is that? Because we do double count it, right? For example, if we have the number 15, we already included that in this count, right? In the multiples of 3. And then we also counted in the multiples of 5. So we double counted it. So we must deduct that from our sum of multiples. So 40 divided by 15 is just 2 if we round it down, right? So this is equal to 21 minus 2 is equal to 19. So by the way, if the question is the original one, what our answer should be, our calculation should be just 40 over 15, right? Because both of them are divisible by 3 and 5. So it's just divisible by 15. So it should just be equal to 2. We will use 2 in the original problem. But let's explore this one instead, because this is the given solution. So again, our formula for probability, total number of favorable outcomes, right? And total outcomes for the denominator. So our denominator is 40 choose 2, right? So we draw 2 cards. We draw 2 cards out of 40 cards. And then we draw 19, right? Our favorable outcome is if we get a multiple of either 3 or 5. So there are 19 choices, right? And then we draw 2. So that is our calculation. So this is 19 times 18 times 17 factorial over 2 times 17 factorial. And then the denominator would be 40 times 39 times 38 factorial all over 2 times 38 factorial. So in the numerator and denominator, we have 2, no? We have 2. So we can cancel these out. We're left with 19 times 18 40 times 39. Can we simplify this? We can divide this by 3, okay? This becomes 6. This becomes 13, right? And then we can simplify further. 40 times 13. We can divide this by 2. And this by 2. So we will have 19 times 3 all over 20 times 13. So the numerator would be 57 and denominator is 260. So this is our final answer. Okay? So the question should have been either or. Are both multiples of 3 and 5? Sorry for this one. There's an error right there. So this is our final answer. So take a screenshot if you want to. So are there any questions for this one? Because if there are none, let's move on to number 28. Third to the last problem. Number 28. If we choose 3 numbers from 1 to 5 to form 3-digit numbers with repetition, how many of these 3-digit numbers is or are divisible by 9? So what's the divisibility rule? Divisibility rule by 9 is that if its digits are divisible by 9, right? So, for example, we have 1, 3, 5. So that's, if we add the digits, we will have 9, right? So for this problem, we have to list the possible combinations, right? 1, 3, 5. We can write it as 135, 315, and so on, no? But the quickest way is if we just write 3 factorial, no? Or 3 permutation 3 or 3 times 2, which is just 6. 3 factorial ways to combine 1, 3, and 5. The digits 1, 3, and 5. So what are the other digit combinations, guys? That you can see. We can have 1, 4, 4, right? Because it says here that it's with repetition, so we can repeat digits. So because there's repeated digits here, this is 3 factorial over 2 factorial. No? This is just equal to 3. So to show what are the 3 ways, we have 144, 414, and 441, right? So we have 6 and 3. And then what are the other combinations, guys? You can also have 2, 2, 5, 2, 3, 4, and finally 3, 3, 3. No? So for each of these possible combinations, the sum of the digits is equal to 9, right? So that makes sense. So those the numbers should be divisible by 9. So this one, it has a repeated digit, no? 2 repeating digits. So this is also equal to 3. And this one does not have a repeated digit. So this is 3 factorial or 3 times 2 equal to 6. And then this one, we can only have the number 333. So only one number. So if we add everything, this one, for every combinations, every possible combination, we will have 6 plus 3 plus 3 plus 6 plus 1. So we will have 19. 19 combinations or possible numbers. Is that, does that make sense for you guys? Or can you still find another possible combination? I think there are none, no? I think we already exhausted all the possible combinations. Let me verify. Yes. No other possible combinations. So the final answer is 19. So we have total of 19 3-digit numbers that are divisible by 9 using the numbers 1 to 5. So if there are no questions with this one, you can take a screenshot for a bit and then let's move on to number 29.
Teacher, is 20 not 19? Is 20
so-
not 19?
Sorry, so who is the one talking? Is it
Teacher, is 20 not 19?
now what do you mean?
6
I can't
plus
understand you.
3 plus 3 plus 6 plus 1 equal 20 not 19.
Is equal to what? I can't hear you clearly. It is equal to 19. No, it is equal to 19. Can you please confirm, guys? 6 plus 3 is 9,
Yeah,
plus 3 is
it's equal
12,
to
plus
19.
6 is
It's equal
18,
to 19.
plus 1 is equal to 19. Right? So maybe you just you have an extra 3. That is why you're saying 21. No, an extra 2. Or maybe you wrote this as 3, not 1. Okay? The correct answer is 19. Is that clear? So I hope so, no? So there are no questions. Let's move on. No other questions. Let's move on to number 29. So number 29 is how many ways are there to split? Somebody saying something. Please mute your microphones, okay? Unless I tell you to. If you have any questions, so please mute your microphones. And also, please don't annotate unless I tell you so. So how many ways are there to split 2025 students in groups of equal sizes? So another way to interpret this is how many factors are there for 2025, right? Because I will explain later. But let's just first look at the prime factorization of 2025. This is equal to 3 to the 4th power times 5 squared. Let me verify. Yes, that's correct, right? So our formula, again, if you're not familiar, number of factors is equal to first exponent of the prime factor, second exponent plus 1, and so on, up to how many factors there are. So in our case, we have 4 in our first prime factor. So let's have 4 plus 1, and then 2 for the second prime factor, 2 plus 1. So we have 5 times 3 is equal to 15. So this is actually our final answer. But I will explain to you guys why we use this solution. So if you analyze the problem, how many ways is or are there to split 2025 students in groups of equal sizes? We can boil it down to saying that how many factors there are, right, for 2025, because we can group it into, for example, if we group it into one big group, so that means the size is 2025, right? We can also group it in 3 equal sizes, right? We can divide it by 3 equal sizes. And the size would be what? 2025 divided by 3, for example, which is 675. So there are 3 groups of 675 students, right? And then we can also say, if we divide it by 5, right? 25 divided by 5 is 405. So however way that you want to split the number of students into groups of equal sizes, you must always use the divisor, which is a factor of 2025, right? Does that make sense for you guys? So this ends at 2025. So this means, in this extreme case, this means that we divide 2025 students into 2025 groups. That means that each group will have only 1 student. So that is also viable, no? That is also a valid solution. So that is why we interpreted this problem into how many factors of 2025. Therefore, our answer is 15 factors. Okay? Does that make sense for you guys? Or are there any questions? If there are none, then I'm going to give you a bit of time to screenshot the screen, the solution for this problem. Otherwise, if there are no problems or no issues for this solution, then let's move on to our final problem, number 30. Number 30. So this is our final problem in combinatorics and in the whole paper itself. So a flight of stairs has 10 steps. Andy can go up 1 step or 3 steps at a time. So note this, take note of this, 1 step or 3 steps at a time. How many different ways is or are there for Andy to go up the stairs? So in these kinds of problems, the most non-confusing way to do this is if we write a table. Okay? So let's say the first row is the number of steps. Number of steps. So let's start first at step 0. So that means at the ground floor. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then for our second row is the number of ways. So this is our table. So at step 0, there's only one way, no? That you can be at the first at the ground floor. There's only one way. So the technique for this one is you have to add the previous floor to your current floor or current step. But notice that you can only go one step or 3 steps at a time. That means that, for example, here we can go one step. So there are 1 plus 0 ways, so it is one way. And then for this one, we have to add the 2 previous, no? 1 plus 1 is 2. And then for this one, for the third step, we have to add the previous and the 3 steps previous, okay? This one and this one. So 2 plus 1. So this is equal to 3. Because we can go up one step or 3 steps at a time. And then for the fourth step, rather, we add this one and this one. So we will have 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, right? And then for step number 5, we add this and this, okay? The 1 step previous to it and 3 steps previous. So we have 4 plus 2 is 6. So if we do that for all of the problems, did I go? So I made an error pala. This should be 1. So we exclude the 0 here. This should be 1. Because you can this should not be included, right? So this should be 1, and then 1 plus 0 is just 1. So we start from here. We have 1 plus 1 is 2, and then we have 3 here, right? If we add this, and then if we add this 2, we will have 4. And then 4 plus 2 is 6, and then 3 plus 6 is 9, right? 4 plus 9 is 13, and then 6 plus 13 is 19. And finally, we have 9 and 19, which is 28. So there are 28 ways to reach the final step or 10 step. So are there questions with this one? So you can take a screenshot for this one. So this was our final problem. So it's also near 3 p.m. now. So we finished the problem at a good time. So are there questions for this one, or do you have any questions for me regarding the previous problems? If so, then you can raise it at this moment before we end our session. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of time. So are there no questions?
No.
I assume there are none. Okay. So thank you everyone for listening in to our lecture today. And by the way, if you want to review these problems, this class is being recorded. So the recording of this lecture right now might be provided to you later. Okay, you can ask the admin for a copy of the recording of this lecture. So again, thank you everyone for listening in. Thanks also for participating, for giving the corrections later. No, I did an error and you pointed it out. So thank you for that. So overall, thank you for participating. And I hope you guys do well in the competition. So how many weeks are there left for TIMO finals? So good luck in the finals, okay guys? I hope you do well in your competitions. So goodbye everyone and thanks for listening in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks also.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.